Hey everyone, I'm Ethan.
And I'm Jesse.
And today we're going to be taking a look at the Dirwin Seeker electric fat tire bike.
Next on Now Let's Review.
What's with the hat?
I got my Dirwin hat on.
Does it say Dirwin on it?
Yeah, it came with the bike. Pretty fancy. My favorite scientist, Charlie Dirwin. But in all seriousness, before we get started, we just want to let you know that Dirwin did send us this bike and hat for review. But that will not affect our review, and any of our thoughts and opinions about the bike and the hat are based purely on our experiences with it.
So what do you think about the looks of this? Because I think it looks suspiciously similar to another bike that we've reviewed, which was the Hemingway Cruiser. It's almost a clone from the looks of it.
Same tire size, same body frame, shape, size, rear rack.
Same handlebar grips, same controls.
Battery is different.
Okay.
The screen is different.
Mm-hmm. But for the most part, like when I first saw this bike, I was like, that's the Hemingway Cruiser.
But with all that being said, let's talk about the build quality.
Yep, so it's got an aluminum alloy frame, which it seems pretty sturdy. I haven't had any issues with it. Hasn't made any noises that have concerned me so far while riding it.
Pretty good in all, and you get, fender, plastic fender.
Front and rear.
So overall, it's a pretty good looking bike. It doesn't look not like a bike.
Pretty decent paint job too. Like nothing is chipped or scraped or anything so far, and it's holding up. Speaking of holding up though, do you think it's good enough to hold up long term based on your initial build quality impression?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't expect this to be snapping in half anytime soon. The battery is well attached. The motor seems to be put on well. But I think that we should address the elephant in the room. This bike is on the larger side.
It is huge. Like, I don't know if it shows up because we've got it elevated, but like, this bike is massive. It's 75 inches long from the end of the rear tire to the front of the front tire. It's 45 inches tall at the handlebars, which again is really tall. The seat is also really tall. Even at the lowest it'll go, I can barely touch flat.
And so one of the reasons that this bike is so tall and so big is down here, these massive tires. Now, nice and wide, right? 4 inches, we're used to that, but the diameter is huge.
26-inch tires, these are really big. Yeah, I actually put this next to my motorcycle and it is almost the same size as my motorcycle, which is crazy for a bike.
But being big isn't necessarily bad. I mean, being bigger than a motorcycle means that you can ride around with a certain air, a certain presence on the road.
Yeah, that's true. I guess you will be seen better. You are a more substantial vehicle on a bike this big, so hopefully that would mean cars would see you and try to avoid you more than if you were on a smaller, less visible bike.
And another advantage of having these large tires, especially combined with the front suspension, means that it can handle riding off-road reasonably well. Having larger tires essentially flattens out all the bumps.
I've taken this trail riding plenty of times. Yeah, the huge tires themselves just absorb a lot of the bumps, but the front suspension works in tandem with that to make it a pretty smooth ride over relatively uneven surfaces.
The Dirwin comes with a 7-speed Shimano shifter, which is good, but really only good if the battery were to die. And the reason for this is that it has a cadence sensing pedal. With a lot of e-bikes, especially ones with hub motors in the rear, having a cadence sensing pedal really just means you pedal for a bit and it turns on the motor. It's not that sophisticated, it doesn't feel that sophisticated, and for that reason, that's why I don't really care so much about the shifters unless the battery's dead, because it's basically just gonna get up to whatever speed you set it to and cruise at that speed as long as you're pretending to pedal.
Yeah, cadence sensing pedal assist bikes have never been my favorite because they are usually pretty jerky, like you said. You basically start pedaling, half a second or so later, the motor just kicks in and basically takes over. It also, for some reason, with this bike and a lot of other bikes, just decides that it needs to go way faster than you're pedaling when the motor engages, so you really don't have a huge amount of speed control when you're using the pedal assist. Luckily, this does have a throttle though, so if you don't want to pedal and deal with that, you can just kind of cruise along with the throttle. Throttle's nice, it's pretty smooth, easy to use, but yeah, would love to see all e-bike manufacturers come out with a better cadence sensing system.
But while we're talking about cadence sensing, it comes with 5 levels of assist. They're easy to change, you have the 2 buttons right here. And essentially all that does is it adjusts the speed that it's going to get you up to while you're sitting there pretending to pedal.
The pedal assist is from a 750 watt hub motor mounted on the back wheel, and considering the size and weight of this bike, it actually has plenty of power.
Yeah, I mean, this bike weighs 75 pounds plus whatever the rider is gonna weigh, and it does have some pretty good get up and go. And of course, I love to use the throttle, and having 750 watts is what you want.
Yeah, exactly. The motor can carry the 75 pounds of the bike and up to 350 pounds of rider weight or rider and cargo weight, because this does have a rear rack.
And it does have a mounting point for a front basket, so if you choose to get something that mounts there, yeah, any amount of weight that you add is going to decrease the overall performance of the bike. That's to be expected with any bike though.
The Dirwin Seeker has a top speed of around 22 miles an hour. This is a bit slow, but it is a cruiser bike, so you probably aren't going to be trying to set any land speed records with this bike. Slowing down from around 22 miles an hour can be done pretty easily with the Dirwin's hydraulic disc brakes. These are far from the best hydraulic brakes I've ever used on a bike, but they have decent feel and pretty good stopping power.
I would say for anyone who hasn't ever tried hydraulic brakes that these are going to feel like a dream to any cable brake that you've ever used. The speed, trip distance, odometer, pedal assist level, battery level, and current power output are all things that can be easily seen on the center-mounted color LCD screen. I really like this screen. It's like the fanciest part of this bike.
It's just such a cool screen. It's unlike most of the other ones we deal with, which are just, the boring black and white backlit screens. This one has color, it's got really good graphics, easy to read.
Yeah, and whoever designed the UI on it cared. I like how it transitions, I like the way that it looks, I like that they employed color, because you're right, having a little screen that's like a digital watch, it's not really what you need when you're traveling 22 miles an hour on a busy road. Also featured on this bike are the front and rear fenders, which are really, really nice. This means that if you're riding through the dust or the rain or the snow, it's gonna protect you from getting as wet and as dirty. Just because for anyone who's ever ridden like a dirt bike through the mud, you're gonna know you're gonna have a stripe going up the back of your back, which is gonna be brown or whatever color the stuff you're riding through was. And it comes with a taillight, which is always on when you have the headlight on, which is really nice, and it flashes when you press the brake.
Powering everything is a 48-volt, 16-amp-hour lithium-ion battery that can be removed from the bike and charged separately in 6 to 9 hours.
The battery also has a state of charge indicator, which is kind of a nice feature because you can just kind of turn that on at any time, even if the bike is off and you're not worried about it, wasting battery or running away from you if you twisted the throttle.
The Dirwin Seeker claims a range of 35 to 60 miles, and based on the riding we've done, I would believe the lower end of that spread. When we take this bike out for rides, I'm usually going in the woods doing trail riding, so not full speed down the road trying to go as far as I can. But that having been said, even when I'm out riding, it only seems to use 20, 30, 40% of the battery, even if I'm going for a couple hours, which is pretty impressive to me. Riding the Dirwin is easy and enjoyable. Although it is a really big bike, it's easy to control, and it does a good job of handling terrain that isn't exactly smooth.
And that's where I think the Dirwin kind of comes in as a really nice commuter. Having the ability to hit large bumps is something that unfortunately bike commuters are going to have to face.
Especially around here.
So as of writing this review, December 2021, the price of the Dirwin Seeker is $2,299 US.
So do you think that this is a fair price for this bike?
I think it's a little high. I think that what you're paying for might be the frames just size and the tire size.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is definitely overpriced for this bike. Like, it does have some good features. It is capable of being used as a commuter. For $2,300 though, I feel like it should definitely be nicer. It should have nicer touches, nicer components. I don't think you're going to be disappointed with this bike. I just think you might wish you had spent a little bit less money on it.
But here is where I think the hat makes the difference, my friend. It's up to you. Do you think that the hat is going to make or break the deal? How many hundreds of dollars is the hat worth to you? You'll have to post them in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching our review of the Dirwin Seeker. We really appreciate you watching all the way to the end, and if you hit the like button, it helps this video out a lot. Also, consider subscribing. That really helps when we're talking to bike companies and we're saying, what can we get it to review for our viewers, so that way they know what's going on in the bike world. So the bigger that number, the subscribe number, the better stuff we can bring you.
Yeah, we've got lots more content coming too. We're working on stuff that isn't just review videos. We've got a lot of things in the works right now. So if you subscribe, you're going to be getting even better content than we're putting out right now. So just keep that in mind. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Now let's review.